Okay, my name is Neil Levine. As John just said, I own Penalty Entertainment. This is a company I started in the 90s. It's been through a few changes over the years. We relaunched the company about 2.5 years ago with the help and support from Sony through Sony Red distribution. Our lane was always kind of a hip-hop urban label. As the business changed, we've kind of opened up our genres a little bit. And when we do license our masters. What do I look for? I look for the right placement. It used to be about promotion and marketing too. Unfortunately, with the recorded music, it's also about a check. To help pay for our bills, and I'm also involved with some management. Also have a publishing business, and if you're gonna stay in the music business as long as I've been in it, you gotta wear your tap shoes and kind of move and groove. So that's what I'm doing.
That's perfect. Joel.
Hello, my name is Joel Feinberg. I am the CEO of deWolfe Music USA, which is the sister company to deWolfe Music in the United Kingdom. We have 46 sub-publishers in various countries, so we're an international publishing company. Music library, original scoring, music clearance, music supervision. And very interesting company, still family owned. We're 107 years old, so the company was founded in 1909. And you could, if you're interested in that kind of history, it's a very interesting story. Sort of happened by chance, but basically one family invented production music on a whim during the silent film era. So it's a very cool story. Personally, what we're doing now in the United States is it's a bit of a new reconfiguration in the United States. So we've taken control, 100% control of all of the assets rather than being a sub-publisher, meaning sort of a vendor. So now that we're the same company, we're now producing more music, we're doing original scoring, sample work. In fact, we just did a record together. You may not even know about it. Yeah, you wrote it. You sure did. I looked at the contracts today. I saw Kobalt. I was like, oh, cool. They're going to be here today. Yeah,
nice. There we go.
Yeah, or Ro James. You know the artist. Ro James.
Yeah.
There you go. Because our company is so old, we were creating production music, which is now very sort of highly sought after music. We were creating this music in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s.
Excuse me one second.
Yeah.
Does everybody know what production music is?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get to that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, production, well, in short, production music is music that's produced functionally to help for scoring films, television, any sort of media that you want to use. So.
Instead of hiring a composer, there's already a pre-existing library of stings, romantic tracks, sentimental tracks, anything that you can think of is already in this library. You would call Joel or his people and say, his people, sorry, do you have people?
Yeah, they're not mine, but yeah.
But you would call and you would say, hi, I need this type of music. And his group would find you that piece of music and send you a couple of samples that you'd be able to use.
You may not even know what you want. You may call me up and say, hey, I need dishwashing music. Can you help me out? We'll figure it out. We have ways to pick your brain a bit and get the job done, and usually we'll nail it through some questioning. We do have composers on staff for original scoring. We own one of the major studios in London. It's called Angel Studios. It's a converted cathedral. It's basically when they book Abbey Road and they need additional time, they come to us, and it's interchangeable. It's at that level. So normally with temp tracks, you don't really want to hire somebody to do that for you. Unless you have a great budget, we'll do that for you. But there's a lot more cost-effective ways to do that, to get temp tracks, so you can figure out exactly what kind of sound you're looking for. So I'll wrap this up. But I guess aside from all the licensing and composition, and now we're producing a ton of music here, partnering with labels and composers and artists. A lot of the sampling things starting to come in because we've been sampled over the years. deWolfe Music is very sought after for crate diggers. So if you go on eBay, you type in deWolfe Music, you might see some records that are like $300 a piece. So now I control these assets, and I'm sitting on over 1,000 records that nobody has access to. So we're moving into that category and building partnerships on the commercial side of things as well for remixing and sampling and things of that nature. And yeah, it's amazing stuff. It goes on and on. I could talk forever, but we have Diane, so why wouldn't you want to do that?
Hi. That was awesome. I'm Diana Akin. I work at a performing rights organization called SESAC, which is the second oldest performing rights organization in the United States. We were started around 1930, and originally we had represented European composers in the United States, and eventually we moved over into just, representing anyone who is in the United States as a composer in all music genres. And what a performing rights organization is we track and license your music for songwriters and song publishers, and we pay royalties on those performances. And those performances are TV, film, radio, some digital streaming, even though it's not as much as people would want it to be, and live performance. I think maybe I already said that, but anywhere where the music is performed in public. So malls and restaurants, bars, all that kind of stuff. If you see a TV show with music in the background, that's where you would get paid for something. Like hear something on the radio, that's a performance. And it's strictly songwriters and song publishers. Now, songwriters can be synonymous with the artist, or they can be separate from the artist. So someone writing a song that an artist performs. We also represent many composers for TV and film, and I think Christoph Beck is one of the ones that we represent. Jeff Beal, he does House of Cards on Netflix. Christoph Beck does a million things, like from the Hangover movies to he did Ant-Man recently. Like he just does everything. But we represent many composers as well. But a lot of them are based out in LA.
Yeah.
So everybody's similar, is it? Yeah.
Some
But I work in writer-publisher relations, so we service the writers and the publishers. The way we differentiate ourselves from ASCAP and BMI is just that we're a smaller performing rights organization, so our affiliate base is smaller, so we're a little more hands-on with our affiliates, and we're also not governed by the consent decree that ASCAP and BMI are governed by, so we have a little more flexibility with how we can operate on the business side. It's because we're private. We're able to just do more things more flexibly and kind of move within the music industry and kind of shape ourselves to where the trends are going. And ASCAP and BMI are both a nonprofit status, so that's why they're kind of governed by this consent decree, and we're not. So just that's a little background on us. Trying to think of what else.
In addition to television, radio, and public performances, you have agreements with foreign performing rights organizations to collect overseas.
Right.
In theaters where they pay performing rights.
Right. In the United States, you do not receive performance royalties from films that have been played in theaters, and that was something that happened a while ago, I think via ASCAP or something. Crazy.
Yeah. I'm like, why did that happen?
I don't know. It was a weird thing that
No
happened. And so in the United States, you do not get performance royalties for that. If a film is played on TV, you do get performance royalties for that.
Right.
Now in foreign countries and internationally, you do get performance royalties for those. We have reciprocal agreements for with I would say 99% of international societies around the world, where we work with them to make sure that the people that we represent will receive their royalties from those foreign societies through us, and then we pay our affiliates. They all govern their own way on how they collect, so we don't have any say over that, but we do work very closely with them to try to make sure we're getting that money for them. And making sure that it's accounted for. I mean, in Europe, they're actually really good at finding performances, especially on the live performance side. Like, you're obligated to, when you go into a venue, they sit you down and you have to fill this out and write all these things. So that's that's a good thing about
It's an additional money stream for
Yeah.
independent filmmakers. You actually get a piece of whatever the movie ticket costs
Right.
back to you. And on television, I believe years ago it used to be that an evergreen television series, you would get about $1,000 a pop
Yeah.
every time your TV series and your TV theme played. We're going to ask questions in 1 second, okay? You would get like this wonderful check every 3 months that you weren't expecting, as long as you reported your music cue sheet and all of your music to one of the societies.
Right.
And generally, it's based on who your composer is affiliated with, whether it's ASCAP, BMI, or SESAC, where the song is affiliated with, ASCAP, BMI, SESAC. So you've got to keep track.
How it's presented into the film. So a main
Yes.
title theme pays more than just background music
Yes.
that isn't moving the scene forward necessarily. And so, and also the payout, the frequency of payout on the United States side for PROs is much more frequent than it is on the international side.
Yeah.
So for CSAC, for instance, we pay quarterly for TV, film, radio. We have a monthly paying system you can qualify for, and we pay a quarter faster than ASCAP and BMI. It's just because we have a smaller affiliate base, so that it just makes it a little more efficient. But on the international side, you're about once a year, maybe twice a year, they'll pay out. So it takes a little bit longer to see those international royalties sometimes. So everyone's like, where's my international? It's like, they don't pay out as often. Yeah, so it takes a little bit for it to get to us and then to you. So we're like, just be patient. It'll
Another
get here.
surprise check in the mail. Mailbox checks.
Mailbox money, that's what they call it.
Yeah, right.
Like my seat.
So,
Mailbox money.
But
So, yes. Now,
So,
can
yeah.
anybody register with CSAC?
not necessarily. We do have a screening process. We really like 100% writer and publisher shares if we can get them, just because it helps with the market share. But that doesn't always happen. We're totally open to people who are co-writing and things like that.
But if I had a film and I had a composer and he didn't have an affiliation, would I be able to say, Diana, can I register with CSAC?
Typically,
Yeah, okay.
you can. We like to meet the people. We like to talk to them first.
Perfect.
We like to hear what they're working on. We want to make
Okay.
sure that they are serious about doing it, because since we're more hands-on, it
Right.
takes us a little more time and out of our pockets and out of our schedules, and we want to make sure it's worth it.
Okay.
So. But yeah, we're
Okay.
open
I didn't
to.
mean to put you on the spot.
No,
I'm sorry.
that's totally
It's
a
just one of
question.
those questions that
I am ready to answer that. And
Okay.
so yeah,
Good, I
it's,
like that.
Yeah, we're open to anyone who's serious about music and composing it.
I like that.
Mhm.
Chris?
Chris Lakey, the VP of Sync and New Media at Kobalt Music Publishing. Been at Kobalt since 2008, and prior to that I was at Universal Music Publishing since 2002. Kobalt is, we're a music publisher, but we actually do administration deals, meaning that if you are a songwriter, first of all, who's in the we have filmmakers, artists, writers,
I think we have
just all
filmmakers.
filmmakers.
I don't think we have any composers or songwriters in the house today.
Okay.
I'm an audio engineer, so.
Okay.
Audio engineer. At deWolfe.
Okay.
deWolfe is one of our sponsors.
I just want to curtail what I was going to talk about. So
Okay.
let's forget about that. So essentially, what I was going to say. So essentially, what I do all day is I'm pitching music for film, and I primarily focus on film and trailers. So whether it's your Transformers, whether it's your Alice Through the Looking Glass, or whether it's indie films, I'm doing the pitching and also the negotiation. And we have 3 of the top 10 songwriters in the world. We have Max Martin, who pretty much writes for everybody. Dr. Luke, who's pretty much written for everyone. And also Ryan Tedder, who's in One Republic, but also a writer. But then we also we run the gamut we work with everyone from Skrillex to Zed to Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. We control the Miles Davis catalog. And it just kind of goes on and on. So essentially what I'm doing all day is I'm dealing with music supervisors, I'm dealing with producers, pretty much anyone who I know can get music placed in said film or trailer and pitching them music. So whether it's me being reactive them reaching out to me and saying, hey Chris, you know, we have a scene in a certain film and it's looking for this. A lot of times I'm trying to replace songs that they can't afford. And then it's also proactive, being, you know, we sign someone, or I'm sitting in studio with one of our writers and they have a song and I think it's great for a film that's forthcoming. So it's a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I love what I do because it's like sort of left brain, right brain, where I get to do the creative aspect. So I get to see films early. I get to go in and talk to directors. I get to, you know, talk about scenes and pitch ideas for like music cues maybe that like a supervisor hasn't thought of. But then also too, it's right brain. So I also do the clearance. So when it comes down to the important part, like getting money, negotiating the fees, whether, you know, if you're dealing like in a film festival, do you need film festival rights? Do you need all media rights? Like where do you need your rights placed? Also do trailer side, which is completely different than doing film. Their turnaround times in terms of creative are very quick, because obviously with films, I'm pitching for films that are coming out in 2018 right now. So so on some films they're asking me what's gonna be coming out at the fall of 2017 for their films. So I have to kind of think as much as I can in the future, express this to our writers, express this to our managers, try to get music that, you know, is being released in the future. But for trailers, it's quick turnaround. Usually on a big budgeted film, so let's just say, for instance, you know, the next Mission Impossible, whenever that's coming out, they usually will have they can have anywhere from 8 to 15 trailers. Now, most of them you may not see because they're obviously targeted for your demographics. So if you're watching a football game, then they'll have a trailer that's like that's catered towards the demographic of people who watch the football game. But then if you're watching, you know, I don't know, some other type show, they could have the love story of Mission Impossible, and it's targeting, you know, people that are watching that. So on trailers, again, it's a very quick turnaround, and essentially all it is just advertisement. It's just trying to get butts in the seats. And then the film, again, are long leads. A lot of times that's pitching and repitching and pitching again and repitching and coming with new ideas until it like actually locks. So yeah, that's what I also have 13 TV shows that I deal with, and that's just sort of a steady process. Also, I could pitch something today and it could lock for the TV show next week. So it's a little bit of it's a lot of creative, it's a lot of negotiation. A lot of my day is spent doing negotiations. But it's great because, for the company that I work for, like I think we have such an awesome catalog. You know, working with our A&Rs, I get to work with our global team around the world. So whether we're signing Flume out of Australia, or whether we have Peaches who's out of Germany, or, you know, Max Martin Camp that comes out of Stockholm, I get to deal with a lot of music around the world and pitch it for films and trailers that I'm dealing with. So.
Having done your job, it's a lot of fun. I just didn't deal with the licenses.
Yeah,
I only had to do creative.
It's a lot of fun. One thing that I've learned, I've been doing it obviously for a while. Like, one thing you learn is to separate what you personally like versus because you're putting music to, you know, as filmmakers, you want your art, and then if music is going to be joined to that art, you want to make sure that it makes sense for what you're doing. Now, obviously, a lot of you guys are probably independent filmmakers, so you're the decision maker. Now, let's say I deal with a major studio. You can only imagine that there could be 30 chefs, you know, in the kitchen. Sometimes, and this is totally true, the direction of a music cue can change because an executive walked by their daughter's room and she's playing. This has happened completely before. She's playing
Nene tracks.
Yeah, she's playing a song. And they walk in and they're like, okay, scrap all that. Right. My daughter was playing some song, let's use this. Or sometimes I find, like on the trailer end of things, sometimes it's just how your trailer is cut. So knowing who the editors are really helps, because there are certain editors who can make, you know, I was going to say lemonade out of lemons, but then I'll start referencing Beyonce. But there are certain editors that can make cuts look excellent to music, and others who don't, who can't. So that's sort of the reason why I say I'm trying to just get my music to whoever I feel has a piece or is the decision maker at the end of the day. So
they're part of the pitch, really.
They are part of the pitch. They are part of the pitch.
Very hard.
So
I go back to the director. What's your budget? Then I'll know which way to go in the maze. Because without
I'm an independent filmmaker.
Independent.
Maybe
I will not go and get the masters.
You wouldn't go to masters first?
No,
You would go
not
to
with an
publishing
independent.
first?
Yeah,
Really?
I
Okay.
would. That's just my Well, I mean, not every case, but
No, not every case, but that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Because very often, if you can figure out what the publishing is going to cost with an independent,
You can make
then you can figure out, are we going to be able to afford the master, or can you just afford the publishing? So as a filmmaker, you want to know this. And it's a very big trend actually right now. You see, especially in trailers, right? Covers. Yeah, there's so many covers, right? I forgot which movie it was. I can't. The Trent Reznor thing that fell. There was one that fell through, or the Trent Reznor went through, and
Can you explain what you mean by the masters to
Yeah,
them
yeah,
too?
I'm
Because
getting
that's
to it.
like
I'm
a
getting
little-
to it.
I feel like they're going. "What?"
I'm getting to it.
So,
Let's
sorry.
let's just imagine a trailer,
Yeah.
and you hear somebody doing, let's say, not Johnny Cash singing "Hurt," which is done by Nine Inch Nails, but somebody else. All right, so there's a trend now where you're starting to hear these like dark versions of like, popular songs, and then it's all dark, and then the superhero comes in and saves the day. The way that deal is done, they're not paying. There's two sides to a piece of music. There's the publishing, which is the ingredients that actually make the song, the writing, the writing and the arrangements, and then the actual recording that was done. So the Nine Inch Nails version of "Hurt," that's the master recording, and the publishing is the song. So Johnny Cash paid for the publishing, created a new master recording. That's him singing on it. Okay, so that's the master side. That's the actual physical recording. So if you're dealing with an independent and they want a song, I need to know how much they have, how much you're going to spend overall on all of your music before I even get into the conversation about the rest of the tracks, because you guys are creatives. I'm a creative. I'm a musician, engineer. I get it. It's your baby. It's your passion. It has to be this way sometimes in your mind. You're not really thinking about budget sometimes. You're thinking about the art of it, and which is where you should be. But then sometimes you have to step out and say, is it even possible financially to get it done?
Nice.
It's always good to just, if you are going to have music in your film, even if it's just always good to set aside a budget for that. It's almost, I value music high, but I know just dealing with productions that I deal with, sometimes the music is a lot of times thought of as an afterthought. You'd be surprised. Like you'd watch films and you're like, oh, the music in here was like so great. The music a lot of times is chosen at the end, and literally if they have to reshoot a scene, like, oh, we need to just reshoot this scene because the lighting was bad, where can we find the budget for that? Oh, shrink the sync from 25 songs cleared to 19. And that's where, like, this is, when you get into bigger budgets and things, but this is where a good music supervisor comes in, because they now have to condense and call all the publishers and all masters and try to figure this, conundrum out, just because they literally need to shoot like an hour because the lighting was wrong. So I would just always recommend to budget music if you're going to have music in your films.
Independent filmmaker wants, I'm so excited.
Yes.
You find out what the budget is. You start to have that conversation. I would go to the publisher first, see how much the publishing is going to cost. Go back, let them know, and they're going to say, "Oh my God, what can you do about that?" Well, what we can do about that is not go for the master, since you can't afford, you barely afford the publishing. I can negotiate the publishing. Then you're going to need to hire some musicians to re-record that.
Yes.
You hire some musicians. It's not a bad thing. Think about it. Independent producer, you can get creative with this song now. You can make "I'm So Excited" your own. You can make it a slow jam. You can do whatever the hell you want. Cater it to your movie. It's the best way to go. You're better off doing that. That's how I tell you.
Yeah.
You kind of.
No, you are.
It's not a bad thing. It's restrictions can be a very useful creative tool. So relax, get creative, be creative with it. Get the publishing. The song is great. It's got the right lyrics you want. Let's talk about how you want to present it. We could do it the same way. Why would you want to? It's 2016.
Yeah.
Let's talk. And then you help them find the musicians. Maybe we'll get the people in the UK, or we'll do it in LA, and just have it mixed and mastered out in the UK or whatever it is. And then, they're probably going to blow their budget on that first song, and then they have 20 more cues, a lot of incidentals going on. Great. I'm a music supervisor. I have access to a ton of music libraries. Obviously, I run one of them in the United States, so we can go there first. I can hustle. If we don't have it, I have a lot of friends that run the same companies. I'll do some deals. We'll get it done. If I can't get it done, then I'm going to go local, which is what you can also do ahead of time. If you don't have a budget, you can start talking to people that that are decent and say, hey, look, I'm working on this film. I got no money. I'll give you, you'll get your, if you have your songs registered, you're going to get your publishing money outside of the United States because I'm going to be showing it in Germany, blah, blah, blah. Get people to sign on before you even start filming and get them to play some songs. These are amateurs. It's very easy to make great stuff in your house. I've done it. And I'll finish, and then you just go on. So you work with their budget, and you start working sort of down the food chain as far as music. You could still find great music at any level, even for free if you have the right people. I've been on that end. I'll stop and then you're on. And I have as a musician, I've only been running deWolfe Music USA for 2.5 years. Before that, I was an employee, hustling. I had a side. I was like a licensing representative. I started in 2004. Moving, just very happy with what I was doing, worked my ass off, but I also wanted, I'm a musician and an engineer, and I had a little side thing going on. And next thing I know, I'm talking to who's now a good friend of mine, a music supervisor, working on a film called The Wrestler, which is a Darren Aronofsky film. There was no money for that. It was about a washed-up professional wrestler that was trying to make an awesome movie, right?
Great movie, Kevin.
Yeah, it was super cool. It was like, what's his name's big comeback?
Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke's big comeback, right?
Did he win an Academy Award?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm talking to the music supervisor. They didn't have what our company didn't have what they needed. They needed very specific. They needed 8-bit music that would sort of complement this little scene where he's playing a video game with an effigy of himself with this little kid in this broken down trailer. And so they needed Nintendo music with his WrestleMania game while this wrestler's on the thing, and it's really 8-bit. They wanted it to sound like Quiet Riot, Bang Your Head, because that was the big theme song. I'll tell you right now. I mean, originally they wanted to pay me, I don't know, it was like $1,500 for the cue, and I was like, okay, why not? It's fun. I went home. Stayed up all night and made like 4 or 5 different cues. I bought software that emulated the Nintendo system from the 80s perfectly. It had all these different presets I could use. I composed a bunch of different examples. I sent it over. This feedback came back the next day, back in the studio, cranking it out, send it over. Get a call later, a day or so later, from the music supervisor. Dude, we love it. We're using it. Great. We have no money. What? Are you kidding me? Yeah. I'm sorry. Listen, Darren, hold on. Darren Aronofsky picks up the phone. He's like, hey, man, how's it going, man? Dude. And I was like, hey, man, I'm glad you like the track. And he's like, hey, man, look, we just got Bruce Springsteen for the theme, and it's the thing, and all my money's going into Bruce, and please, I need you. Da-da-da, we have no money, to please do it. And I was like, dude, I mean, my mom's in town. I just wasted the whole weekend. I was like, but you're awesome. It's awesome. It sounds like it's going to be a great film. I guess you're the man, and I'll do what you say. I just took it, because I was young. Yeah, it was a risk. End of story. Turned out to be a hit. Global. I'm still getting mailbox money from that.
I was gonna say, aren't you getting stuff?
No, way more than it. I'm getting more than what they were originally going to pay me on the sync. And they gave me a credit in the film, which was great, which helped me as just as a writer. So
just a musician.
Yeah, well, whatever. It was just cool.
It was good.
Yeah, when my wife hey, check me out, down at the forum. And, but that's the story, and that was the kind of hustle that went along, and I took a risk on just the royalty portion of it, and it paid off.
And they negotiated in that part, like if it became big or whatever, you'd still get those like residuals.
No, I wasn't gonna get that either. There was no way. Yeah, I'm not giving up. There's no way I'm giving up publishing.
Yeah.
On a freebie and gratis.
Yeah,
no,
not on a freebie.
So, but it was great. It's still pretty good, and they played on television globally still. So I'll probably see money from that film forever, right? I mean that film's not going anywhere.
So it may be worth it to your musician, your composer, to do work for free. Okay, and anything pre-1923 is public domain, guys. So if you have, and I have a list someplace of all the public domain songs, I wish I could remember them, but they're online, and you could make a heavy metal version of anything that's public domain. I mean,
I'm so excited.
No, but you can.
Yeah.
Somebody just did the Sound of Silence.
There you go.
Holly played it for somebody, and somebody played it. They played it. It might have been Nancy played it for me, but Sounds of Silence, the Simon and Garfunkel song. Heavy metal guy did it. It was like, wow,
Nice.
dude, this is a great version of this song.
Yeah.
So you can do amazing things with public domain music if you can afford it. If you can't afford Chris, if you can't afford Neil. Now, Neil, you've made deals. You've worked with people for masters, correct?
Correct.
On films. And not that you give them away, but you make something.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just did a soundtrack and had some music in an urban film called Meet the Blacks that came out on April 1st, top 10 movie. And for me, it wasn't just about a check to get my music in the film. I have an artist, a rapper named Trina, and so I was using the movie and the soundtrack as kind of a launching pad for her next single. So it wasn't about, okay, I need a big check for the master, knowing that it was an independent movie and they didn't have a big budget. A good budding mind was supervising the music. He came to me, and for me it made sense. And again, it was one of these last minute things. His name is Paul Stewart, who's working around the clock. Of course, it comes down to like, we got to finish this up today. So it worked out well because I got exposure for my artist. I was able to put a couple of new developing acts in the movie and on the soundtrack, and it was a win-win for the movie and a win-win for us. So sometimes if it's a strategic fit, and we're doing more of these soundtrack and movies because it's for us it's just another launching pad. It's another look.
That's a new radio,
and it's a new radio. So it's about exposure, and so it really changes from time to time. Sometimes we get a call from a young filmmaker, and they want to use one of our masters. And again, we want to know how it's going to be used, where it's going to be used. We don't want to sell our rights short. But there's a bigger picture sometimes than just collecting a check. Although checks are good.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on how he made that residual money, and because he was the writer and the publisher on that song and so that's his performing rights were kicking in when that was happening, when the film was being played. So that's why he didn't get that sync money. That you usually negotiate. He did it for free, which was a gratis license because the dude's like, I don't have any money, and so
You hear that a lot.
Yeah, he did get money after the fact, and I'm guessing you said you had all of your own publishing, so you didn't have to right or no.
That's right. It was my own publishing company, my own writer.
Yeah, you get money from both of those sides.
Yep.
You never give up your writer's share ever. I mean, you may have to give up publishing share sometimes, but. He's lucky he didn't have to do that, and so that's where all of those checks are coming from.
Yep.
The performing rights side, songwriting, song publishing. Just
And it
wanted to
came
point
back.
that out. So.
And it actually came back to me. I got more
Yeah.
You're gonna
work.
make
All of
more
a sudden, I
money.
became
Right.
the 8-bit guy, and so then it was The Office, and then it was another
Yeah.
spin-off show from The Office. Anybody that needed 8-bit music, the
Same piece or new pieces?
No, new music. It's like somebody, like the same music supervisor. Hey Joel, can you do can you make like a Casio sounding beat from the 80s? There's a dancing scene. I need 2 tracks. Fine. Now I'm in The Office. Then there was another one like the Mindy Project. The same thing. There's a video. We're in a movie theater. There's a video game in the background. Can you do another one of those little things? I'm like, these aren't really like. These aren't sophisticated, compositions.
It's all right, though.
There's just multiple revenue streams
They paid
that are
sense.
happening.
Yeah,
all
relationships.
through
So.
here. So yeah.
I would also say, just as filmmakers, you could always, if you really believe in the song of your project, always try to go for the rights. Try to clear the song. Like, don't just think like, oh my God, it's a whatever, like a Fleetwood Mac song, and I can't get it cleared.
Yeah.
I would say the best approach that I find when independent filmmakers contact me, and let's just say it's a big song or a catalog song, is you have to be able to sell it to me, because then I have to go and sell it I have to upstream sell it. So you'd actually be surprised that a lot of songwriters and artists, especially for documentaries, really, if they really believe and like what you're doing, they would. A lot of times they do approve things. I mean, even sometimes for gratis, in those situations, usually it's a friend of theirs. But I think a lot of times it's how you actually sell it, and then also get familiar with terms like most favored nations. So do you guys know what MFN means? That essentially means that. So say you wanted to clear a big catalog song and you had just smaller cues that you cleared. For the big catalog song, you would say, you're gonna get paid on an MFN basis, meaning that no other song in your film is gonna get paid any more than the catalog song. So it protects the copyright or the rights holder, who owns the bigger song. So get familiar with terms like MFN, or this may be a little bit tricky because you probably aren't going to do all the accounting, but there are things, step deals. So steps start kicking in. Like if it sells a certain amount, then the rights holder gets paid a little bit more. Also too, again, I would really focus on what rights do you need at that absolute moment. Yeah. So if you're just entering your film into one film festival, just say it's going to be a film festival rights for Tribeca Film Festival, over this weekend, and that's it. Because you don't want to go for the whole kit and caboodle if you don't have the budget for it, and work sort of like in pieces. Yeah. Because obviously, you can enter it into Tribeca, and let's just say your budget was like $500 for the song, and then Fox comes in, then buys you out. So you'd rather that happen and only clear for the rights that you need, because then let Fox deal with it when they're going to put it out, for instance.
And Fox may have deals with the publishers in place.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times the big studios and the TV networks have deals where they only pay a certain amount of money for a music cue.
Yeah.
And it works in your favor. But sometimes it's better to get it beforehand. But there are lots of rights, film festival rights, and
film festival, television.
Television. You can get a 5-year television license. You can just get a theatrical film license. You don't have to get all of the other rights that are associated with it. You can just, you
could do a limited theatrical. Limited 20 theaters in the United States.
And now that's what they're doing, because in order to get onto Netflix or Hulu, you need to be released in the top 10 or top 20 cities in the country. But that then guarantees you TV or Netflix and Hulu. So you can do the limited license and then get a television license, or is Netflix, Hulu covered under television now?
No, it's video on demand.
It's video on demand. Okay. Yeah. So you also have video on demand and television.
Or it's streaming on demand now.
I don't know anymore.
Yeah, it's streaming on demand.
I just asked for worldwide rights, everything. Give me everything and tell me how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
But you can get options in addition. You can get. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and then if you have, I think you mentioned that your budget was, you said like $5,000. Probably if you had a budget that was just a little bit higher, I would also recommend hiring like a third party like licensing company who has the relationships with the music publishers and with the masters, and could just be frank with you and say, okay, this is your budget. I've dealt with, for instance, Kobalt so many times. They probably can push these through, but these two songs you should just be prepared to replace, just because they have those relationships, and it will save you the headache. Again, you guys are a lot of times are just focused on the creative aspect of, you got to get your shoots, you got to make sure, your actors, actresses are showing up, your shots look perfect, and sometimes just the business side of like, oh my God, all these rights with music may not, make its way into like your stream of conscious at the time. So these third-party companies, that's all they do all day, and we're in contact with them as publishers, masters, and they can go and dig and find things. So if you are, let's just say, doing a documentary on like rare funk, like they can somehow find all 15 writers and publishers and find those clearances. It just saves you a bit of headache, and that's when you have a little bit more of a budget. I would recommend. If we control the rights, there's no upfront charge. Yeah. What I would do is you would contact me, and then I would send you a request back, or we would essentially just have a conversation. I would say, okay, how's the song going to be used? Background vocal, visual vocal, what's the timing? What's the scene? Can you send me a clip of it? What are the rights that you need? And so I'll get what other songs are going to be in this film. What's your music budget? So I'll take all those factors into account, and then I would come back to you and say, okay, this is the quote. And then we would start having the back and forth negotiations of, just back and forth negotiations. But if you were trying to find, let's say you just didn't even know who owned those rights, then that's when you go to sites like ASCAP, BMI, SESAC. I'm pretty sure you guys have like a search engine.
A repertory search.
Yeah.
Yep. And actually, lyrics.com a lot of times has the publisher on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So you can check them. Suzanne DePass has a deal with Universal Pictures. At the time, she was at Motown, so it probably would have gone through Barry Gordy's company.
Yeah.
And
Because
that's
sometimes,
just off the top of my head.
yeah, because
So I
sometimes
remember-
too, just with trying to find that information, obviously companies swallow other companies. So as it appeared in 1968, if you pulled up whatever like the vinyl and looked at it, like, oh, okay, it's this publisher. It's like they've probably been acquired 15 times. And this is again, if you did have a little bit of budget to have a clearance person specifically, I mean, I would have more songs that they would try to clear too, not just one. But this is like what they do, and this is what their job is. So, and then other times too, it's like if you contacted me, just ask the publisher, like, hey, I see that there's 4 of the writers. Do you know who the co-publishers are? Because sometimes in our systems we do. It's like, here, you contact so and so here, or whatnot. So,
And the great thing about a third party, they'll tell you, like, forget it, so you're not going to be wasting your time, chasing publishers when they're going to be like, no, we dealt with them last year. It's not happening. So it just save you time. It's usually some type of fee up front to do it, and then a fee to handle the paperwork.
And you can always call the festival, because I still know a couple of the clearance people. I think Arlene Fishback's still around.
She's still
and
here.
Joe Manella and Linda Osher are still around.
Linda
So
Osher,
I can
yes.
point you in the direction of
and there's some
certain
clearance
people.
companies even here in New York.
Yeah, but I was in music in LA, so I.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I'm just saying, since you guys are in New York, it's like you could walk into their office.
It is. If they could
You
walk
guys
in
ever
and
ran across like a writer or somebody who was just like, no,
Yeah, of course.
I don't want what were some
Well,
scenarios
it's
where
just
they're like, I
there's
don't
different
want that.
scenarios. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the first initial thing when we sign someone at Kobalt, I try to meet with them or someone on our team, and one of the first questions we ask are there things that you don't want us to pitch for? Because I'm that person's advocate. I essentially need to know what they like, what they don't like in the film, television, ad, game, media, because then they're going to go off and do tours or whatnot, and then I got to sit at Universal Pictures and they're showing me something like, would so and so want to do this, and I have to I have to recollect back to our conversation on they actually may think this is cool even though you don't have a budget. So people say no because I don't drink alcohol. I like Pepsi. I don't like Coke. Like, I mean, it's the most it's their art, and I completely respect it. Some people don't want violence. Some people don't want things over, like Christianity or religion or things like that. Sometimes it's very just like,
I hate pirates.
They just love Mountain Dew and they hate everything else. It could come down to that, or it's it can be a whole philosophical thing on why like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they don't want their song in that because it scarred them as a child. So people say no all the time. I sometimes try to convince people if sometimes I'm like, this project is really good. I try to get as much information. I try to have them either see a film or see the clip. I will get them on the phone if it's something major. I'll get them on the phone with the studio supervisors or the directors, and we'll have a powwow. But at the end of the day, especially for Kobalt, since we do admin deals and we don't technically own publishing, it's up to our clients, writers, if they want to do something or not. So I mean, it's It's nothing for you to sit down and just listen to what they have to say. You don't have to sign anything. You just listen to what they want to say. But that's the hustle of. I mean, that's what I would do. Yeah. Like if I read about we talked and then I read like something about you in Variety, then I would say, hey, let's sit down. What are you doing? What are your projects? Who are you into? Oh, you like this artist? Well, we work with them. Do you want to meet with them and talk about your project? That's sort of the hustle on my side. So it's not uncommon.
No, you would ask that composer, assuming that composer also owns the publishing of their work. You just send an email. How do you want to be credited in the film? Right now, you make it up. Do your best. Right now, I have you as song title. You could say composed by, courtesy of publisher, or however you want to do it. And then they'll come back and say, no, I prefer
my stage name as opposed to
yeah.
Because my lawyer was telling me that I had to have a master
different sync contract with each of these people, and it has to be.
You should
No,
have an
you-
agreement.
the
You
agreement.
should have
Yeah,
an agreement
that's
so
different.
that they can't come back and sue you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you should have something in writing
Absolutely.
from them. You should have a master use
That's
and
right.
a sync license.
It's a license.
from them.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm
Okay.
just getting that agreement, and then however they want it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
usually
company-
in that agreement, it'll say like
Yeah.
Q, and that
Yeah.
person will just fill it in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You should get it from the composer. They should, they should register their work for sure, especially if you're going to present that. I don't know what level this musicians at, but they want to
Yeah.
register with SESAC,
They'd
right?
be-
Pretty
You're right,
much.
right, yeah.
They
You
want
know,
to register
they
with
should
Smart
register
people
with their
do.
PRO, and they're registering that music at
Performing
their
rights
PRO.
organization.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Well,
performing
they're
rights
young and
organization.
they're new and they're like just into putting their music up on
Sure.
So they're
They
They
probably
should
not
still,
affiliated.
they should still
register it.
register with the
Absolutely.
PRO, and any time you write a song and then it's out in public, it's official. At that point, it's published,
Yep.
even if you don't have a
Yeah.
publisher.
Okay.
So, but that's a public performance,
Yes.
and they need to. It's not copywriting the song, but it is a layer of protection when they register it with their PRO. Copywriting is a whole other thing where you have to go through the U.S. Copyright Office, and you can do it online now in groups of music, which is much easier and less expensive.
And same thing with PRO, you just go online and you find
Right,
that.
you.
There's only three
There's
companies.
three
Yeah,
in
right.
the
In
United
the US.
States.
Okay.
There's ASCAP, BMI, and SESAC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can research all of them and see,
Okay.
whatever. But yeah, you should. CSAC, we don't have any fees to sign up with us, but you have to be accepted as an affiliate. And ASCAP and BMI, I think they have a fee that you just go online, you pay, and you become an affiliate with them. Now, here's a caveat. You can only be a writer at one PRO at a time. You can't be a writer in all three of them. You can be a publisher at all three of them. That publishing companies represent songwriters that are at all of the PROs. So they have to typically have publishing entities at all of the PROs. But as a writer, you can only be affiliated at one PRO at a time. So if you want to switch to another one, there's a whole process you have to go through. Because you're in a contract, and all of the PROs, all their contracts, they renew automatically. You don't just get to the end of that term and then it's over. So everyone's like, oh, I signed up with them millions of years ago and I didn't register anything. It's like, well, you're still affiliated with them.
Yep. And they can't retro
yeah.
back, so they need to register ahead of time.
Yeah.
So here's a scenario why this is important. I don't know how big your film's going to be or how small. It doesn't matter.
Huge.
It doesn't matter.
I like that.
Let's say
bless you.
I expect it to be, but let's say it's not right now. Let's say it's not. Okay, so you pour everything into this film. You get this composer to sign on for it. They didn't register their work.
Or they didn't even sign up with a PRO.
They didn't even sign up with a PRO. They didn't do any of that work, right?
Right.
The film's locked. It's done. You distributed. You did your film festival thing. Made a little noise. Didn't do much. And you decide to put it on the web. Let's say you put it on YouTube. Screw it. Bottom of the barrel. I got to get the public to watch this, or whatever you want to do. You put it on YouTube. Nothing happens for 5 years. Some actor or actress in your film becomes super famous, or something happens. All of a sudden, millions of people want to know about this actress or whatever, or the song or whatever it is, and this YouTube video gets 10, 20 million hits, goes viral globally. There's money to be made in that alone. You, as the filmmaker, would probably monetize that video with YouTube, so the little advertisement that happens before, you're going to get funneled some of that. That money's going to come to you. That money also goes to anybody that registers their music within YouTube as a writer and a publisher. So if that composer doesn't do that, you don't know what's going to happen in 10 years. Cable itself didn't pay royalties when it first. I'm 41. I remember back in the 80s. You had 3 channels for cable. You had HBO, you had WHT, and you had Showtime. And Cinemax. Excuse me. Skinemax. Yeah, that was awesome.
Let's get the name right.
Yeah,
here, okay?
try to watch. So it was like a box with 4 buttons. That was it. They didn't pay any royalties. They didn't pay. There was no royalties for that for many, many years. Look at it now. I mean, it trumps television cable as far as the royalties that are being paid.
Definitely.
The internet's going the same way. So it doesn't matter how big or how small or whatever happens right now. You want your composers to do the right thing now, register it now. Even if it goes on the web, you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. So that's one of the reasons why you'd want to go through the hurdles.
I'll look
That's
at
what we
I'll look
show.
at the credits that you have over.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
here the next couple of days, so am I. I'm here. Here all week. So yes, I'll look at them if you want to look at them. I know. If I have questions, I can call lots of people.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I have a question. For example, well, now in my case, I just registered the songs with the GEMA in Germany, which ones I used, and you spoke so much about revenues. I didn't really get it. As a filmmaker, I think it's just revenues creation for the musicians, right? If you do the music later on. Or
Through GEMA, you mean? Like the revenue from.
I mean, you didn't make the music.
no, I didn't.
Yeah, he's
I just
asking
used it.
because we were talking about
You
revenue
Right.
streams.
Right.
We're talking strictly for your composers.
Right. This was composers.
Does your production company have a publishing company?
I'm also the producer.
Okay.
So you're the
Do you
internal-
have?
No idea.
Okay.
I would assume
If
no.
Warner Brothers makes a movie,
Yeah.
their composer, all publishing goes under Warner Brothers Publishing Company name.
Right.
And I don't remember what it is. But every studio has a publishing company with each PRO. So if I make a movie at Warner Brothers, it's going to go under WB Music. If my composer's music is going to go over, the composer is going to get the writer's share. The studio and the production company are going to get the publishing share worldwide, and then when it goes to television in the U.S. Okay, so if you're a production company that made the documentary has a publishing company, and you control the music that the composer made or that these musicians made, then you will get money. If you don't, if your music cue sheet only reads the musician's publishing company, then he's going to get all the money.
Yeah, because
Meaning,
Okay.
if like Warner came in right now and bought your film, say they came in and just were like, "We want to buy your film," who owns the rights to? They're like, "Who owns the rights to the music for your film?" That's the question that you need to.
Music rights are very important
Yeah.
in films.
Do you know? Do you have a contract with your composer?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
You do.
Okay.
So do you know in that contract, do you own the music, or can the composer take the music in your film and go
Anywhere.
pitch it for a TV show?
Put it in Imogen's
Yes,
movie.
we agreed on that. I told him that that is his music, but he gave me the right to use it forever and with all the media I want.
But you don't
But it's not
own any of
exclusive.
that
You
music.
don't own it. It's
But
not
you don't
exclusive.
determine whether or
So
not.
if that so if that
like-
music got put in a Pepsi commercial, you wouldn't
You
deal
wouldn't
with
make
that
anything.
because you don't own that music, right?
I don't want to. That's
You're-
his music.
Yeah, that's his music. Okay.
You don't control where
Yeah.
he can place
Yeah.
it. Like it's because right, so it's you just
You don't have
control
approval
everything
rights. You don't
about
Yeah,
it.
have
no.
ownership at all.
We're just trying to figure
Yeah.
out. We're just trying to figure out who owns the rights, whether it's
publishing,
good or bad.
yeah.
Like you did your deal, that's fine. But we're just trying to determine who actually controls the rights.
Because sometimes there's deals where the publisher controls the whole thing, like in perpetuity, or like it's like a work for hire, and the writer will still get money from it, but they can't go and place it in other places. Like they can't take that song and go put it in another film, or because it's owned by that publisher, and they own everything. They determine what happens to it from that
Right.
point on.
That would be
So,
our
does that
library
make sense?
music. We own the publishing.
Right.
They have no say with what even
Yeah.
we have tracks with Jimmy Page on it when he was 14 years old that we did in the 60s. Jimmy Page can't tell us what to do with that
Right.
track.
Yeah.
But he'll still get writer's
He'll get a writer's share, yeah,
royalties.
yeah.
But there's other ones where, like you were saying, I think what you're saying is he's letting you use it for this, but he could go somewhere else and put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like he could put it in a commercial or another
And he
film.
doesn't have
or
to
whatever.
talk and ask.
He doesn't have to talk to you about it. Yeah.
And you get no monetization
Yeah.
on the use at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fine. But
Yeah.
that was interesting.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
there's like a million things. Yeah, it's a lot.
So usually, so this is here nor there, and every deal is different. So
Right.
this is not. I'm not like besmirching the deal that you did, but I would just say in the future, your deal that you do with your composer, you should try to own at least a piece of it.
Right.
So then, So then if he goes out and repurposes it, so say he took the score, I mean, this happens a lot of times in trailers. Like trailers sometimes use like a lot of the same score music. And you're like, how is this trailer using the same score piece of score music that was in, this trailer? It's because the rights holder, or maybe the studio too, maybe they approved this, but they could repurpose that music. And it's fine. You would probably let him repurpose it however he wanted to repurpose it, because you would get revenue from it. But sometimes there could be conflict. So say your documentary was coming out and you didn't own the rights to the music, and say a similar documentary was coming out like a month later, kind of on the same subject, and they paid for the music for your composer who owns it. Now you have two documentaries of sort of the same thing that are using the same type of music. Do you see where a little bit of conflict would come in? Sort of.
MGM was famous for that.
Yeah.
MGM used to do it all the time. They
Yeah.
would take pieces of music from old movies and just stick it in a trailer.
And then
They
stick
were
it into
allowed.
more
They
trailers,
owned
and
it-
stick it
yeah,
into
they
more
owned the-
trailers.
They own the rights. They could do whatever they want.
There's a company that does that specifically in LA. They repurpose trailer music. I mean, that's one of their. That's like
Yeah,
their
no,
wheelhouse.
it's a huge business.
Yeah.
You just would want a little bit of ownership if you could get it.
And
Now,
I
obviously,
mean the
if
publishing rights.
Yeah.
When they say rights, they're talking about the publishing
Publishing
rights.
rights. Yeah.
So that right specifically is you
Your
would maybe
movie is
own part of it.
creating the showcase for that person's music, so you want to be a part owner of whatever
Yeah.
garners money from your movie.
I would go in at just where, like, I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen you guys' films or budgets. I would always just go in 50-50 and just
Well-
see and sort of see what you could get, but everything's negotiable. So.
So a song is split up in half, literally. So when they're saying 50-50,
50
they
of
mean
the half.
of the publishing half.
Which is 50% of 100% of the song.
Always goes to the writer, and 50%
Right.
is the publishing share. And so they're talking about negotiating within that 50% of the publishing
You're
share.
talking about 25%.
I just wanted to
Right.
clarify that
Then
because
it
it
goes
gets
down
confusing.
further. It goes down
Yeah.
to 12.5.
Then you're
it goes
like
even
all these little
It's
percentages.
this is how I
Yeah.
learned music publishing 101. You just draw two circles.
Yep.
Yep.
And you say one M for master, and then one P for publishing. So then, because people start saying like 200%, because we only deal,
Yeah.
we deal in 100%.
Yeah,
so
they do that.
when you do these pie charts, it completely, trust me, it got me through
Mine
college
will
when
get-
I was doing
yeah,
this.
like,
And you just
I know
split
it.
it, so it's like you own just that piece of the publishing. But again, everything, and especially where you guys are at your level, like everything is negotiable. I would not. Don't fear that. Oh my God, this will never happen. You never know, for one. But then also to have just at least enough business sense to have fallback plans, meaning like with music and things, and then also to just have a little bit of the knowledge that we're talking about up here. So yeah, just going like, okay, I just know that I need to own at least 50% of my composer's score, because maybe some repurposing can happen. I don't even know what repurposing is, but I just know I need to be getting that down the line. And that basically is like just what you need to level out at. And then, obviously as you get bigger and start getting attorneys, then they can start dealing with that, or clearance companies, and they can start dealing with that. But, I respect and know, just when I talk to filmmakers, that a lot of times their focus, and this is great, and this happens with musicians too, their focus is like, I just want to do my art 100%. But the world that we live in, and also because of the level that you guys are at, you're going to have to know a little bit of the business side of things too. Because you'd be surprised, even though, say, like a Hans Zimmer is like, he has attorneys and people who can take care of everything. He probably knows how his percentage is split in like Amsterdam as compared to in Italy, I mean in Denmark as compared to like in Italy. I'm not kidding you, because he's probably gone through this process so much. And what we're talking about, it's a big rabbit hole, but just scratch the surface now. And as you create more films and get more into this, you'll probably learn, because you'll make mistakes, which is the best way to learn, but sometimes maybe
That
not.
hurts the worst.
Yeah, but as you do this more, you'll gather more of that
And
information.
your friends will be thrilled that you're getting mailbox money and they're not.
Yeah.
They'll be saying, why are you getting mailbox money? Why are you getting checks? Well, I kept half of my publishing.
Yeah.
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 Or
Although-
I kept 25% of my publishing.
Just to play devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm a musician. I've played in bands. You'll never hear about them. It doesn't matter. But the point is, I've done, if I'm working with an independent filmmaker, they're asking me, wow, your band's weird and crazy. It's going to work in this scene. Can I use your track? And we put the record out independently. or I own the label. Let's say I have a very small indie label, and you're a friend, and you want to use a couple of tracks that were already released commercially. I'm not going to split them. I'm not going to give you any of the publishing on that. I'll let you use the. I'll let you use the song.
Oh yeah, no, it's pretty.
I'll let you use the song that that's my commercial release for the film. There's no way you're going to get publishing. So I think what they're referring to is if you're working with a composer that's going to create original music for your project, that's when you want to get into talking about splits. But I wouldn't approach your friends that have records out there on CD Baby being like, let me get some of your publishing, because you're not going to get shit.
That's kind of not.
But just for the record, a long time ago, Paramount tried that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're
well,
not doing it
Paramount tried
anymore
to get
for a
publishing
reason.
off of pre-existing records.
That doesn't happen anymore.
Not
Yeah.
cool.
You know, the public is savvier. The market's totally different. Information is
The
everywhere.
business
You
is
can't just use magic hands all of a sudden because
Right.
people can read.
Sweep
and
it under the
there's the
rug.
internet.
Yeah,
you know what I
it's
mean?
not gonna
Like,
happen.
nobody trusts anybody anymore because people know everything.
And that's the difference between when you say sync, because you're synchronizing a pre-existing song
There you go.
to something, as opposed to composing, which is like. So I actually don't deal with composers because usually studios will take, like major studios will take all the publishing, or it'll be some deal that's done with attorneys and they'll kick it back down to me and say, okay, of this huge blockbuster that your artist did an original song, we give you 10% and take it or leave it. Composer, agents, that whole world is like that's a whole different world that I personally don't even know too much about. Like how would I negotiate those deals? So never even ask your friends, like, let me get the publishing on this. So,
Sorry,
You will
it's
not
like
do that.
funny.
Yeah.
It's like,
Unless they're writing it for your film.
right,
Yeah.
Then you
right,
can
right,
get
right.
it.
yeah.
Anybody else have questions? Anybody else have anything they want to share?
I want to share a bunch of bags I brought for everybody and some
Yeah.
trinkets and stuff. So
Me
please,
too.
I'm running.
there's blue,
You
there's
didn't bring it.
blue, red, hot pink, there's neon green, whatever
yeah.
your,
You could put this stuff in those bags.
Yeah,
How
So,
cool is that?
just some
we have-
Sharpies.
yeah, and then the
I'm gonna leave
information.
this stuff here.
Bag.
And everybody take a bag.
Yeah.
We have enough.
Yeah.
The image on the bag is actually an album cover. We used to actually have them hand. You don't really do that anymore. We just have artists that would do that in the 60s and 70s, and we're just starting to bring all that retro stuff back now for marketing.
Thank you.
Oh, you have another question?
Thank you so much. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.